In this video, you're going to see a bit of an experiment that I did in terms of this wall. Now, oftentimes when you wrap a wall, you're going from side to side, there's no breaks. But this particular one we had for WrapsCon in 2017, we're going to use it for 2018. And we actually had it set up for the business boot camp that was for Avery Dennison. So when I saw the panel set up, obviously I saw this is wood. There's natural breaks between the sections. So what I thought was, instead of having a giant overlap, and especially the film that was being used was a textured wall film, so the overlaps are generally pretty weak because the material doesn't stick too good. I thought we're going to have no overlaps. We're going to do basically butt joints. So it's all about prep, standard wall prep right now, scraping it, wipe it down with degreaser, lowering the surface energy. Here, because you got this wood sticking out top and bottom, and it's been coated right now, has a high surface energy right now, so very important to lower that for wall film. So then you can see that natural break between the panels right there. So I'm going to see two different options of how to tackle this. So basically it's a standard wall print. I noticed that the white trim is left on the wall panel right there. So you got almost like a 1/4 inch bleed top to bottom, not a whole lot. So definitely maybe ask the production department next time to give extra bleed. You always want about 2 or 3 inches just to be safe. And especially on the sides right now, almost no bleed as well. So definitely just cutting this really close to the vest. So that being said, so once the panels are set, it's all about placement right now, because the overlaps, because it's a butt joint, the overlaps of these panels aren't, let's say, 2 or 3 centimeters, or let's say 1/2 inch. They're around probably 3 solid inches, just to make sure that there's enough material that goes on either side of the gap, so that when you cut the material out, obviously you're not going to come short left or right. All about half circles, hinges here. Can't use masking tape really. Magnets don't work. So here, just making sure it's level, making sure it fits. So no, it was level, but I looked at the bottom and it was slightly short. And again, that's the problem of not having enough bleed. So I come back here, double check it. Now there's a level and it fits. Very important to get that combination. Now just basically standard install. I'm not going to show necessarily how to install this panel other than just kind of squeegee in the middle, squeegeeing right to the left. Always want to make sure that it starts off good. Once it starts off good, then it goes in nice and smooth. So here, just basically pull off the batt liner, create glass, go straight to the bottom. So nothing special here in this sense in terms of how to put on the panel. So basically just using an extra wide squeegee, lower the squeegee strokes, create high quality. Especially here at the top, just here you can see it's just a nice standard tuck and cut, just with nice good workflow. Tuck it, then come back and cut it. Very important to just kind of go from one side to the other. Try to do this in like almost just 3 movements. So basically by doing it 3 movements or 4 movements by pulling, this just creates that good quality, good focus. And now here, instead of leaving that base section here and overlapping it with the next piece, I'm going to cut it out. So I cut it right to the edge, nice, clean, and mean. And once that's cut out, then I can come back and seal the deal. So nice, clean, and straightforward right there. Once that panel is set, now it's all about registering. So here, because the overlap is extra big, when I cut it out, the excess piece right here just along important registration points. So you can see I cut right through the letters, and I like that because that really gives me a good read of how to line them up. So you can see that I could do a little half circle right there so I can lock the panel in place. Once I lock it in right now, it's just very important to kind of use my body. Notice my forearm is holding the panel, my knee is holding the panel on the wall, and I'm really just going for making sure the panel is nice and symmetrical top and bottom. Then I start registering pieces on the lower section here and making sure they register as well. So I pull a little half circle right there, making sure the E and the N line up. Very important for that. Once that is locked in and I feel like I have nice good glass and I feel like the registration is somewhat close, right now I'm just going to kind of flop the panel and make sure that it goes nice and even straight down and make sure that it's really uniform. Very important to make sure that it locks in. I see that the W is lined up right there, so everything is good to go. The wrap and sew green is good, the top is green. So once this checks out, now I'm ready to rock and roll. So very important not to just create a hinge and then register. Always want to make sure the registration points are locked in, those half circles. Then I lock it in with a permanent hinge across. So right here, notice that instead of squeegeeing all the way across from side to side, I kind of lock in this upper portion at the top, kind of leave the upper right in case I need to stretch the material up there. Go big with the backing paper right now. Don't take too much off, but don't take too little. So once I get set up there, I double check the registration. Once everything lines up, I lock it in with the squeegee stroke right now. So you can see that there's lots of extra material along the registration points right now. And I'm not worried about that because I'm going to come back and fix those with triangles. Very important right now. Instead of just seeing this as a rectangle piece, I'm seeing lots of little baby triangles, not only on the registration points, but also on the side now. So notice there, I lock it in with almost like another permanent hinge from the side. So basically I squeegee from top to bottom along the top, or side to side on the top and side to side on the bottom, and left this middle section now just loose. So you can see I can kind of pick it up with my free hand right now And here I'm just going to kind of squeegee this open section here and not even worry about the area where it's registered right now. So I'm leaving that all loose and open, and here I'm just going to squeegee this main flat area down. Nothing for me to register here, so it just goes into blue, nice and easy. So squeegee it down nice and clean. And what's interesting here is because the surface energy is actually fairly high because this wood wall has been kind of coated, I have to keep the material away. That does no air egress feature right now. So the trick right now is making sure everything registers pixel to pixel. So I pick it up, cut the material even more, but I have lots of excess material, and obviously normally if I was leaving an overlap I would never do this, but right now cutting off those little baby sections right now just to make sure everything lines up nice and clean. So you can see I just pick it up, shift it down, and you see the material builds up, but by seeing in triangles right now and being able to shift it, like right here you can see the material bunches up, but I'm going to shift it instead of just straight over. I kind of angle my squeegee and shift it up, make it go up and down based on what the wrinkles are telling me, and also based on how I want to shift the material. So if it comes a little low, I squeegee up. If it comes down a little high, I squeegee down. So getting a little bubbles right there, but you can see that just by squeegeeing this section and leaving this area open, I can really adapt to the registration, and that is obviously the most important part. And that's what's beautiful about using triangles right here, is I can shift it and read it and go back down, and everything's pixel to pixel. See right there, the material shifts down, nice and clean, locks in, and now that everything's locked, go double check for any little minor bubbles right now. Poke those out, and now that everything's good to go, you can see here there's no registration points below that hinge that I made, and I could just squeegee normally side to side. Everything fits down nice and clean. Now I'm going to set up the edge for cutting because it's a little loose, and because this is wood right now, just going to make sure it's set up nice and even. Don't want to press too hard. This is unlaminated calendar film right now. So once I get that set up, I come in and cut nice and flush to that side, pull the excess film away, and voila, no overlap at all, and basically there's just a nice good clean cut right there. So this looks kind of more like paint than as opposed to a giant sticker on a wall. So here's a shot of the final result of wall 1, and what I want to do on wall 2 is show something slightly different. So again, this is just a big experiment right now, and that's sometimes what's nice is if you're wrapping something in your shop, sometimes I like to wrap it a little different than normal just to get a little different ideas, maybe that once I go live with a customer, maybe that'll kind of spark stuff. So again, just don't do the same thing in and out, especially in your shop. Your shop is definitely for experiments right now. So instead of starting with the outside piece working in, notice that this time I'm working on the inside piece working out just to give myself more space maybe on the side. I didn't set this side up with masking tape because basically the surface energy of this particular film, because it's textured, is really, really low. So that saved me a step there. So just still need masking tape for the top and bottom. Tuck it into the corner, cut everything away nice and clean. Now it's about registering for this piece, but again, look how much excess piece I have on the side. Cut the material away with the liner on just so I can register the pieces nice, clean, and mean. Here, once everything's set, I want to make sure I create a half circle hinge right there, so I lock that in slightly with my hand right there. Once everything's set, I'm going to lock it in, pull the material down, and notice I go super big on this particular one because there's a lot of registration points from top to bottom. So I make sure that the C and the W line up pixel to pixel right now. So when that's pixel to pixel, I'm going to pull with glass straight across. I see no wrinkles, so I'm going to lock it in right here with the squeegee stroke side to side. This is basically my jumping off point. The top has been squeegeed, so again I have that giant open section right in the middle. So instead of squeegeeing from top to bottom now, I don't really care. I'm going to basically go focus on the registration right now. Make that pixel to pixel, very important. So I lock everything in, make sure everything's just super tight. My free hand is just kind of pulling the material away, shifting it. You can see the material is kind of bunching up a little bit, so I can make sure the top of the end lines up, the bottom of the end lines up, squeegee down nice and clean. That whole left side of the panel right now is just kind of floating on the wall. Really don't care because this is the most important part. Squeegee that down, make sure that the tree is lining up, making sure that the O and the N is lining up. Come down here, pick this up, you can see that I'm just making micro adjustments right now, and if everything fits pixel to pixel, then lock and load. So you can see now that that whole right side is done, see how that open section is nice and free right there, and what I'm going to do basically is just going to squeegee up and down towards the hinges that I created on the top and bottom. So you see my free hand is slightly holding the material away, and then I just do overlapping squeegee strokes and all the material comes out the side. Nice, clean, and mean. So it's somewhat an unorthodox way of wrapping a wall, but I think it just creates that nice, good, high quality, and actually saves a lot of time in the sense you don't have to go back and pick the panel up all the time or to fix registration, because the registration is always pixel to pixel. So just that's the benefit of using triangles for sure. Now here you can see, instead of what I'm doing here is instead of cutting at the body break in the door, I'm actually creating a butt joint. I'm cutting directly on the wood, which is definitely different, and I never would do this on a normal wall, but because this is wood right now, and by making a butt joint right now, I'm basically covering that little natural gap that's in the door, that's in the two panels, I mean. So basically I'm bridging that gap, and before on the other panel I cut to the gap, and so what you'll see is a slight difference in the sense that with the butt joint, Everything fits perfect, it looks nice, clean, and mean, so you don't have that overlap. But what's interesting is when you look at it, it looks just like the other side, but because it's bridging that gap, was here, it looks nice, smooth, and uniform. But what I noticed here, if you go to the next panel, is that once I came up to the other side, and this is again why it's good to experiment, is this was technically a good idea, but when I went to squeegee, because this is wood and this is low, low tech wall film, it didn't quite fit that gap, so this actually looks worse. So by making a butt joint and bridging the gap, that was definitely the bigger call. But what I do like it is just knowing my surface energy, knowing that I can make a butt joint there. Again, this is a short-term install, and having no overlaps creates that nice, good paint-like effect. So good things to think about, lots of registration tips, and I hope this helps you on your next wall install. Thanks for watching, Justin Pape.